The road stretched endlessly through upstate New York, a ribbon of asphalt, cutting through fields of wild grass and sagging telephone poles. It was the kind of place where time seemed to pause, where towns like Pine Hollow existed as afterthoughts on the way to somewhere else. Major General Amara Kingston gripped the wheel of her rental sedan, her eyes flicking between the road and the dashboard clock. She was due at Fort Drum by dawn for a classified briefing, a mission so sensitive it could alter the balance of power in a volatile region. Operation Nightfall, a covert strike against a terrorist cell, was 36 hours from launch, and Amara was the linchpin. She didn't have time for delays, but delays found her. Somewhere between Syracuse and Watertown, her secure phone encrypted Pentagon issued started losing signal. The bars dropped one by one, a silent warning in the gathering dusk. Amara cursed under her breath. She needed to confirm coordinates with the Pentagon, and she needed to do it now. Spotting a flickering neon sign ahead, Hank's fuel stop, she pulled into the cracked, weed-choked lot. It wasn't much, a sagging building, a few rusty pumps, and a handful of locals loitering near pickup trucks, their voices carrying in the humid air. Amara parked at the lot's edge, away from the front door, and stepped out, phone in hand. General Kingston, verifying identity, initiating briefing. She said, her voice low-clipped, professional. The Pentagon officer on the other end launched into the details, troop movements, drone strike vectors, a timeline that couldn't shift. Amara paced a few steps, her boots crunching gravel, her eyes scanning the lot out of habit. She didn't look the part of a four-star general. No uniform, no entourage, just jeans, a gray hoodie, and a baseball cap pulled low over her braided hair. Anonymity was her shield, a lesson learned from years of navigating rooms where she was the only black woman at the table. But in Pine Hollow, anonymity was a liability. Inside the gas station, Evelyn Marsh watched from behind the counter, her sharp eyes narrowing. Late 50s, with a peroxide blonde ponytail and a face etched with suspicion, Evelyn didn't see a war hero or a woman on a call. She saw an outsider, a threat to the order she'd spent decades enforcing in this town. Her son, Officer Caleb Marsh, was Pine Hollow's golden boy, a cop who kept things in line. To Evelyn, Amara was the kind of trouble that needed stamping out. She grabbed the landline, her voice a hushed hiss. Yeah, there's a woman out here by the pumps acting real suspicious, probably on drugs, pacing, talking to herself. Send someone quick. She hung up before the dispatcher could ask questions. Across town, Caleb Marsh and his partner, Officer Ethan Tate, heard the call over the radio. Caleb, mid-30s, broad-shouldered with a buzz cut, smirked. He'd been kicked out of the Army a decade ago for insubordination, a demotion that still burned. Worse, he'd served under a young Lieutenant Amara Kingston, back then, a rising star who'd called him out for reckless behavior. The memory of her calm, unyielding authority haunted him. Now the idea of catching someone important in his town felt like a chance to rewrite history. Ethan, younger, wiry, and eager to prove himself, was all too happy to tag along. "Let's shake things up," Ethan said, sliding on his sunglasses. They jumped into their cruiser sirens screaming. Amara, oblivious to the storm, brewing, stayed locked on the Pentagon's voice. The coordinates were critical. Any misstep could cost lives. But then she saw it, red and blue lights flashing off the gas station's grimy windows. Her stomach tightened. She lowered the phone, squinting as the cruiser screeched into the lot tires, spitting gravel. Two officers leapt out before the car stopped. Caleb unhooked his holster, his jaw set. Ethan, a step behind, gripped his taser, his eyes gleaming with anticipation. They moved like predators, not peacekeepers. Amara placed the secure phone on the car's hood, her hands, visible palms, open. Her voice was steady, honed by years at West Point and battlefields half a world away. "Good afternoon, officers. How can I assist you?" Caleb's eyes locked on her, and for a split second, recognition flickered. Kingston. He shook it off, but his voice carried an edge. License and registration. Now. Amara nodded, moving slowly to retrieve her wallet. Of course. My ID is right here. I'm Major General Amara Kingston, U.S. Army on official business. She pulled out her military credentials and federal travel orders, extending them with a steady hand. Ethan snorted, stepping closer. General. You serious? What's a general doing in a dump? Like Pine Hollow dressed like that. Caleb snatched the documents, his face twisting as he skimmed them. The name Kingston hit like a punch. It was her. The officer who'd humiliated him all those years ago. He tossed the ID onto the hood, his voice dripping venom. This is fake. I was in the Army, lady. I know what a general looks like, and it ain't you. Amara's pulse quickened, but her face remained a mask. Sir, those are valid credentials. Please verify them with your supervisor. Shut it, Ethan snapped, stepping into her space. You think you can play us? You picked the wrong town, sweetheart. A crowd was forming, locals, gas station, workers, drivers, who'd pulled in for gas and stayed for the show. Whispers rippled through the group. A man in a trucker hat muttered, "She's up to something." Another laughed. "Arrest her already?" Evelyn by the door shouted, "She's probably a dealer." Look at her sneaking around. The crowd jeered, feeding off her words. Amara's training screamed to de-escalate, but every instinct told her these men weren't looking for reason. She tried again, her voice low firm. Officers, contact your supervisor. You're making a serious mistake. Caleb smirked, pulling cuffs from his belt. Turn around, hands behind your back. Amara didn't move. Something inside her snapped a weight, built from years of slight doubts, and proving herself twice over. I am a Major General in the United States Army, she said, her voice cutting through the humid air. You are unlawfully detaining me. Caleb laughed loud, and mocking the sound echoing off the pumps. Yeah, and I'm the damn Secretary of Defense. Turn around, Kingston. Or do I gotta make you? The use of her name sent a chill down her spine. He knew her. Before she could respond, Ethan grabbed her arm, yanking her hard enough to make her stumble. Caleb twisted her other wrist, the cuff snapping shut with a bite that drew blood. Amara's secure phone clattered to the ground, the Pentagon's voice shouting through static. Ethan glanced at it, then stomped down the screen, shattering. Oops, he said, grinning. Guess your little toy's broken. The crowd erupted. Cheers, shouts, a woman yelling, Get her! Don't let her scam you! Amara's knees hit the gravel as Caleb pushed her down his hand, heavy on her shoulder. She clenched her jaw, swallowing the humiliation burning like acid. In that moment, she wasn't a general, wasn't a person. She was a target pinned under their prejudice. But one pair of eyes saw differently. Lena Carter, a 20-year-old cashier at Hank's, watched from the crowd's edge, her hands trembling. Lena's brother had been roughed up by Caleb years ago, a mistake the town buried. This ain't right, she whispered, pulling out her phone to record. She stepped forward, voice shaking. She said she's a general. Check her ID. Evelyn spun on her. Shut up, Lena. She's a liar, probably a criminal. Stay out of it. The crowd drowned Lena out, jeering. Defeated, she slipped back, but kept filming, capturing every second. Amara's mind raced. She saw herself at 22, a lieutenant standing before a panel of white officers, one sneering, "You're only here because of quotas." The memory cut deep. She thought of her father beaten by police in Harlem in '78 for looking suspicious. Now in Pine Hollow, history was repeating itself. She wanted to scream to fight, but she knew one wrong move, and they'd destroy everything she'd built. So she breathed slow and steady, even as her heart pounded. At the Pentagon, chaos erupted. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Reed stared at the blinking line labeled General Kingston Secure. The audio feed had gone from clear to catastrophic shouts, scuffling a sickening crunch, then silence. Marcus slammed his headset down. "General Kingston, this is Command Operations. Do you copy nothing?" He looked up at Colonel Vanessa Holt, who stormed across the operations floor. "Ping her location," Vanessa ordered, her voice like a blade. "And get Fort Drum's security chief. Now!" A technician pulled up a map, a red dot pulsing in Pine Hollow. "She's at a gas station off Route 11, the tech said. Hank's fuel stop." Vanessa's jaw clenched. This isn't a dropped call. Operation Nightfall goes live in 36 hours, and Kingston's got the final coordinates. If she's compromised, we're looking at a national security breach. She turned to Marcus. "Get Jag on the line and scramble a team from Drum. I don't care if we lock down that town." Rear Admiral Paul Grayson, a political appointee with a knack for avoiding scandal, raised a hand. "Hold on, Colonel. Could be a misunderstanding. Storming in with guns blazing will make us look like bullies." Vanessa rounded on him. "A misunderstanding. That's a 4-star General, Paul. If she's in trouble, we don't negotiate with small-town cops. We move." Marcus cut in, voice urgent. "Ma'am, the audio caught something before it cut out. Male voices aggressive. One said, 'You picked the wrong town.' Another used a racial slur." Vanessa's eyes darkened. "Red alert. Get those choppers in the air." Back in Pine Hollow, Amara sat on the curb cuffs cutting into her wrists, her back against the gas station's peeling wall. Caleb loomed over her, his shadow blocking the sun. "What's your real name, huh? Who you working for?" Amara exhaled slowly, her voice steady despite the pain. "You have my ID, my travel orders. Everything you need is right there." Ethan kicked the gravel near her feet. "You're 1 second from a cell, lady. Don't play games." Amara said nothing. She wouldn't beg. Her eyes flicked to the crowd now swollen with onlookers. Phones were out recording, but no one intervened. Evelyn stood by the door, arms crossed, smirking. Lena, still filming, caught Amara's gaze, a silent apology in her eyes. Pine Hollow wasn't just a sleepy town, it was a powder keg. 5 years ago, a black teenager had been beaten by police for loitering. The case was hushed up, but the scars lingered. Now, Amara's arrest was tearing those wounds open. Some in the crowd whispered support for Caleb, their voices tinged with fear of outsiders. Others, like Lena, felt the sting of injustice, but stayed silent, cowed by the town's unspoken rules. Caleb's radio crackled. "Dispatch to Unit 4, confirmed detained subject." Caleb grabbed it, smug. "Affirmative. Female, early 40s, resisting possible fraud." A pause, then the dispatcher's voice tense. "Be advised, subject is flagged federal. Pentagon's on the line. Release immediately and stand by for orders." Caleb's face went pale. Ethan's grin vanished. "What the hell?" he muttered. Amara looked up, her expression unreadable. "I told you." Caleb fumbled with the cuffs, his hand shaking as he unlocked them. He mumbled something, half apology, half curse, but couldn't meet her eyes. Amara stood flexing her bruised wrists, her gaze burning through both men. "You'll regret this," she said, her voice low, lethal. "Not tomorrow. Today." As she bent to retrieve her shattered phone, the crowd fell silent. Evelyn's smirk faded, her confidence cracking. But before anyone could react, the ground trembled with the roar of engines and the thump of helicopter blades. 3 black SUVs and 2 Blackhawks descended on Pine Hollow dust, swirling as Fort Drum's security team stormed the lot. The crowd scattered, some screaming, others frozen. Lieutenant Colonel Jamal Carter, a wiry man in his 40s with a no-nonsense glare, led the charge. He crossed the lot in seconds, his eyes locking on Amara. "General Kingston, are you injured?" Amara brushed gravel from her knees. "Minor injuries, Colonel. Their careers, though. Those are done." Caleb and Ethan stepped back, hands raised as Carter's team surrounded them. "Stand down," Carter barked. "You're under federal investigation. One wrong move and you're in Leavenworth. Caleb stammered. "We didn't know you had her credentials," Carter snapped. "You chose to ignore them." Ethan, defiant, muttered, "She was acting shady." "Look at her." Carter's gaze turned to ice. "You saw a black woman on a phone and decided she was a criminal. That choice just ended your life as you know it." Amara was escorted to an SUV, her posture rigid, but her mind racing. As the convoy pulled away, she glanced back, seeing Caleb wipe sweat from his brow, and Evelyn slip inside the station, her bravado gone. Lena, unnoticed in the chaos, uploaded her video to a news outlet's tip line, her hands shaking, but her resolve firm. The fallout was immediate and merciless. Lena's video hit the internet that night raw and unfiltered. Two Pine Hollow cops cuffing a calm woman who identified herself as a general, only to be mocked, pushed, and humiliated. The clip spread like wildfire, racking up millions of views by dawn. Pine Hollow wasn't a sleepy town anymore. It was a national disgrace. By morning, Amara's cracked phone yielded a bombshell. Despite the damage, its secure recording function had captured everything: Ethan's racial slurs, Caleb's mocking laughter, Evelyn's voice egging them on. The audio leaked online anonymous but devastating, with Ethan's voice clear. "Think she's a general? Black women like her don't get that far." Hashtags like "Justice for Kingston" and "Dinquarsa Pine Hollow." Shame trended globally. At Fort Drum, Amara sat through endless briefings, lawyers, Pentagon officials, a White House aide demanding updates. She answered with the steel she'd used in war zones, but alone in her quarters, the weight crushed her. She wasn't shocked Amara had faced prejudice before, but because after 25 years of service advising presidents, leading thousands, a gas station in Pine Hollow had reduced her to nothing. She thought of her father beaten in Harlem in '78 for looking suspicious. The parallel wasn't lost on her. The Pine Hollow Police Department scrambled to contain the damage. Chief Roger Hensley, a grizzled man more comfortable fishing than facing cameras, stood before a mob of reporters, his face slick with sweat. "We regret the misunderstanding," he mumbled. "The officers are on leave pending review." A reporter from Albany cut in. "Chief, why did your officers ignore clear military credentials?" "Was race a factor?" Hensley faltered, muttering about tensions and mistakes. The world wasn't buying it. Caleb and Ethan's names leaked, their faces plastered across screens. Anonymous tips revealed prior complaints, excessive force, racial profiling buried by the department. Not anymore. Civil rights lawyers from New York City filed federal complaints on Amara's behalf. The DOJ launched an investigation. The New York governor called it a stain on our state. But the fight wasn't clean. A high-profile lawyer hired by the Pine Hollow PD went on cable news, claiming Amara had provoked the officers, maybe faked her credentials. Online trolls and bots amplified the narrative, painting Amara as a fame-seeker. Pine Hollow fractured. Some residents tacked signs in their yards, supporting Caleb and Ethan, blaming Amara for the town's infamy, as businesses shuddered under a boycott. Amara felt the isolation even as support poured in. Veterans groups rallied civil rights leaders, marched strangers, sent letters. But the hate mail stung, each slur a reminder of the world she fought for and against. The press conference was set for noon outside Fort Drum's gates. Cameras lined up, microphones stacked, the air thick with anticipation. Amara stepped to the podium in her dress uniform, medals gleaming her face, a mask of resolve. Colonel Carter stood nearby, protective. Pentagon officials flanked him, tense. They'd offered Amara a scripted speech, safe and diplomatic. She'd torn it up. Her voice rang out, silencing the crowd. "My name is Major General Amara Kingston. For 25 years, I've served this nation, leading soldiers, advising leaders, defending our Constitution. 3 days ago in Pine Hollow, none of that mattered." She paused, letting the words sink in. A group of protesters, Pine Hollow locals, bussed in by a right-wing group, shouted, waving signs, Support our cops." Amara didn't flinch. "I stand here for my father." She continued, beaten in 1978 for walking home. "I stand for every person doubted, dismissed, or degraded because of who they are." The crowd erupted, cheers, sobs. Lena, now a local hero for leaking the video, stood among them, tears in her eyes. Amara's gaze found her a silent thank you. "I'm not here for apologies," Amara said. "Silence fuels injustice. Accountability isn't optional. Dignity isn't negotiable. No one's prejudice gets to rewrite who I am." She stepped back, the applause deafening. The protesters tried to shout her down, but their voices were drowned out. Amara walked away, her pace steady, carrying a nation's eyes. Pine Hollow never recovered. The boycott crippled its economy, and the police department faced federal oversight. Caleb and Ethan were fired, indicted for civil rights violations. Evelyn exposed as Caleb's mother fled town, her reputation in ruins. Lena became a voice for change, her courage inspiring others to speak out. Amara returned to duty, but the scars lingered. She knew the world hadn't changed, not yet. But in Pine Hollow, a crack had formed, a spark of accountability that might grow. Because when injustice tried to silence her, Amara Kingston spoke louder. "Speak the truth, even when it shakes you. Someone's listening, waiting for the strength you show."